live. We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. People, so happy we're all here again today. Tell you what, this is more fun than a person should be allowed to have. I honestly love what I do here. And the last couple of shows that we've done here on the lifeboat have been nothing short of amazing when it comes to the interaction with all of you guys. It's really been, I don't know, it's just been better. I've had a couple of people reach out to me, so I know that this is not something that's in my head. Let me adjust this here real quick, people. Squirrel has been having fun with the equipment in the office. Let me see who we got so we can say hello. And I'm going to try to not block anyone here with my big fingers. I am the Noise Opera. Good to see you. Miss V, glad that you're here. Stacy Michaels. Miss Hermit Hill, Kentucky. Joanna W. Flamin Jackson. Good to see you, Jackson. Trish Killian. Joanna, yes. T Prada. Yep, we've got the whole crew. DJ Daddy-O, glad that you're here. And good. That should about, pardon me, folks. It's getting just a little bit of, there we go. That's better. So if you tuned in and checked out the thumbnail, people, this is a subject matter that we have talked about so often here on the lifeboat, but I think it needs revisiting. I really do. And one of the reasons that I do is because of basically everything that's been happening here on the boat. I think that one of the takeaways from the last week here on the lifeboat is that, hey, Swiss Babe, good to see you. One of the takeaways from the last week here on the lifeboat is that life is precious. It's a gift. It really is. Oh, Miss V is dealing with a passed out drunk. That's tough. It is a gift. Every single day that we have is a gift. And unfortunately, I think too often times as people, we start getting caught up in the day-to-day struggles and all of the different things that go on in our life. And it's easy to lose sight and to lose track of that. A lot of the people that email me, and especially those who are very new to sobriety, oftentimes have a struggle with the concept of living one day at a time. CW Terry, good to see you. Seventh Son, never a doubt. I knew you'd be here. There are people who struggle with the concept of living life one day at a time. And I think that for a lot of people, this is kind of a semantic thing. I really don't think that it's the practice of living life one day at a time, but the words get in the way. And one of the reasons I think that this is a problem is because it makes it sound as if you're not looking to the future. It makes it sound as if as if we're almost giving up on terms of having what we would call, air quotes, a normal existence. We tend to think that people who are not in recovery, well, obviously they don't live one day at a time. They're planning their life. They've got all of these things. People, you can plan your life. The concept of living life one day at a time is more about really living one moment at a time. It's about living in the now. It's about not getting caught up in all of the things that tend to drive those of us in recovery into relapse. And I don't mean using, I mean relapse. You're either heading forward, right? Or you're obviously not heading in the right direction. You're either working on your sobriety each day, or or your addiction is working on you each day. There's no other way to look at this. Every single day, you're either working on your sobriety, or your addiction is working on getting you back into the life that you were living prior to making the decision to live your best life. So when we start thinking about the concept of one day at a time, what I want people to concentrate on, and what I think makes this more palatable to a lot of the people who are fresh in recovery, is, hey, good evening, Jesse Brown. I'm glad you're here. Is the concept that it's taking things as they come. There are so many great cliches that are attached to the one day at a time, but I think my favorite of all of them is that the only 2 days that don't matter, right, are yesterday and tomorrow. We get very, very caught up with our past. The other cliche, obviously, that we say all the time is we want you looking out the big glass in the front of the automobile. We want you looking out the windshield. We don't want you looking out the rearview mirror. This is a pretty obvious cliche, right? Makes sense to everybody. What we're saying, people, is that it gets very easy to get hung up on the bad decisions that we've made, to get hung up on the things that we've lost, all of the different things that have happened to us along the way that have made us who we are, have got us to the point of where we're at in life. And I think that if you spend all of your time obsessing about the mistakes that you made, it's just a matter of time before you're going to be back in the life. And what I encourage everybody to do is to put things in perspective, leave things behind that need to stay behind. Alan Valentine did a beautiful interview the other day, and when he was talking about disappointing his loved ones, when he was talking about, his daughter, he's talking about his mother and father, all of us, there's nobody in this walk, right? There's nobody trying to stay sober that doesn't have to cope and come to grips with the things that they've done in the past. If you live in the moment, people, then what happens is when those memories start to crawl up and those memories become ants, when those memories start to become automatic negative thoughts, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was in Facebook today, and I was reading some of the comments that people had left in there, and it astounds me how often this is the biggest stumbling block for all addicts. And people I know, I got an email, one that was almost blistering, where one of the people that watches the show said, you can say that you're a new creature, but that doesn't get you out of the responsibility for the things that you did in the past. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that you do not have to take responsibility for the things that you've done. If you don't, you're in trouble, because the guilt will be worse if you don't. Truthfully, what you need to do is cope with it, but it is in no way a cop-out. It's a fact. Everybody says the expression, you hear it over and over again, no one in their right mind would do X, or no one in their right mind would do this. Alan Valentine, great interview. And, speaking with Alan at length and realizing that, here's a man that was, he would get $30,000 and he would run through it in a matter of months. Who in their right mind would do that? And he even said that in his interview. He said, who in his right mind? Nobody in their right mind. You realize that the burden of proof in a court of law is that if the defense counsel can prove that the person on trial was not in their right mind, that they're not responsible for the things that they've done. Now, again, I'm not saying that you're off of the hook, but what I'm saying is you need to keep this in perspective. You need to realize that your life was dictated, and I mean every single aspect of your life was dictated by the fact that you were using drugs. Anyone in sobriety who looks back analytically has to admit that. You have to admit that all of the decisions that you were making were no longer under your control. You know, when someone decides that they're going to put their kids in the car at 2:00 in the morning to go see the man that sells drugs, that's not you making that decision, because most of the people on this boat would never do something like that. Most of the people on the boat would never neglect their children. Most of the people on the boat would never lie to their parents or steal from their siblings or steal from their best friends or just make a practice of being dishonest in every single thing that you do. That's not who we are. So if you start looking at it logically and you say, you know what, that's not who I am, well, then what happened? And the easy answer, the answer that makes the most sense, is that when chemicals are in your brain and you are answering to that dictator, you remember the quote when we first started the lifeboat. I remember it was probably one of the first participation trophy awards that I ever gave out, was when a gentleman used the example of a dictator and said, you know, if a dictator starts doing really awful things in a country, I mean, you think of some of the awful ones that we've had, you know, through the ages, but, you know, somebody like Pol Pot, you know, or somebody like Adolf Hitler, when they start doing things, every single person in that country isn't to blame. The dictator is. Well, the dictator in our lives were drugs and alcohol. Absolutely no two ways about it. I don't think there's anybody in recovery who will argue that point. Doesn't make any sense to argue the point. We know that when you get up in the morning and your very first thought is about drugs or alcohol, and before you go to bed at the end of the day, every single thought you have is about drugs or alcohol, then realistically, that drug is ruining and ruling your life. It is making the decisions for you. So perspective, people, is the number one weapon that you're going to keep in your arsenal, in your toolbox, to ensure that you don't spend a lot of time in the rearview mirror. And I promise you, this is something you have to come to grips with. This is something that you have to spend a decent amount of time, looking at and making sure that, that you are aware of your past, that you have owned it, and that you're comfortable with it. It's not enough to say, yeah, you know what, I did that. And this is, if for those of you who have been on the boat a really long time, you remember that in the very beginning, the first probably 6 or 7 videos that I did was just talking about my past and the things that I did, the laws that I broke, the things that I was arrested for, all of those things. And I would get emails from people that said, you don't need to share that much of your life. If you just talk about what's going on. Those had to be people who have never been in recovery, because anyone in recovery would realize that if you don't own the things that you've done, and if you don't get a handle on the guilt that comes from that, then you're setting yourself up for failure. It's all about perspective. And this is one of the most dangerous things in our walk. So if you're going to stay living one day at a time, and you're going to stay living in the moment, then you got to get that rear view mirror and remove it. And if not remove it, certainly make sure that you're never glancing at that thing. And the only way to do that is to accept your past and move on, to realize that as much as you did all of the things that you did, it certainly is not something that you need to feel the blame for. Swiss Vapor, you have my word that I am going to share whatever it is that you sent me in a private message. But I will tell you this, when I went live today, I have not seen it yet. And if I try to read it now, we're probably, you want to see me squirrel, we'll be in some very serious trouble. But you have my word that it will be in the next show, because I have a feeling that it's probably good stuff. Each time the Swiss Vapor has taken the time, oh my goodness. I was going to see if maybe I could pull it off, Swiss, but this is a good one. This is pretty long. Yeah, I promise you, tomorrow night, Swiss Vape, I got this for you. But there's no way I'm going to be able to read that without kind of shutting the show down, and I don't want to do that, or we'll all be in trouble. So, people, do we have an understanding about the past? Do we have an understanding about the rearview mirror? And do we have an understanding of what it means to put your level of guilt and your level of responsibility in perspective? Because I promise you, without it, you're in trouble. So, what does that leave? It leaves tomorrow. It leaves the future. And if I were to break down the number of emails that I get and the things that people talk about, it would honestly, trivial stuff. People that, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I mean people that send emails and say things like, "I love the boat. It's really helping me," and those kind of things. They're great, and they keep Mark and I going. But the emails that require more attention in a more instant kind of way are the people who are concerned about vital things going on in their lives. And you can break it down into probably about a 60-40 split. About 60% of those people are dealing with the guilt from their past and their inability to move on and move forward. And then the other 40% are stressing about things that haven't happened. This is a plague among people in recovery. You can spend so much time worrying about things in the future. Very often, and we've talked about this so many times on the show, we build the things in the future up to proportions that you simply can't believe. I did a show the other day, and I talked about some of the frustrations that have been going on in my life. And on that particular day, those frustrations took the form of a lot of stuff being sent in, things I ordered from other countries weren't getting here. And there were, customs was trying to add value-added tax and all of these crazy things, but stuff that I bought from other countries online, I was really having a struggle getting through. And I'll be honest, people, it was dragging me down. And in that particular show, I said, how stupid is this? How bad is this? Well, I find myself very often stressing about upcoming events that number one, I have no control over. There's nothing that I can do to affect what is going to happen. You can sit and you can think about it, and you can stress about it, and you can obsess about it, but it's not going to change the outcome. All of that, allowing the automatic negative thoughts to crawl all over you. If you would let it longer on the chat, I would translate it. No chance for me to get it translated. Like I said, my friend, I promise you the next time we got it, I will have that up for you on the next show. Swiss Vape, you've got my word. Swiss Vape is great. He's one of those people that, number one, I really enjoy talking to. And number two, it's very rare that I talk to that man that I don't have something that I can share with the group. He usually doesn't reach out unless there's something big and important going on, which is always fun, and that's most of you, truthfully. But looking to the future, obsessing about things that haven't happened yet. We talked about this at length on a couple of other videos. There's only a couple of ways to deal with these things. And once again, people, this is the buzzword for everything that we do in sobriety. It keeps coming up again and again and again. It always harkens back to perspective. There is somebody recently that reached out to me, a person on the lifeboat, and they contacted me because they were having some medical issues, and they were obsessing about what might happen. And anybody that goes to the doctor and there's a chance that you're looking at something that is, frightening. If there's a diagnosis that you don't know about yet, everybody worries that it could be cancer, right? It could be all of these different things, and it weighs on you. I remember once while incarcerated, they had all of us take a test for HIV and hepatitis C. The whole place had to do it. And what they said was, if we don't contact you to tell you anything, then no news is good news. So we all thought, well, that's cool. Well, I got what's called a call out. And what that means is that you have to go up to the medical department. And usually they will give you the call out on a Thursday night, and then you go up Friday morning. So you check the call outs each night before you go to bed. Well, I got the call out on a Friday night, but medical is closed on Saturday and Sunday. So no news is good news, and I get news. So I thought to myself, oh, good Lord, with the things that I've done in my life, I probably have contracted, a really horrendous disease. And over the course of that weekend, people, I probably took 4 years of my life stressing about this. I really did. Absolutely just obsessing about what could happen. And it was late in the afternoon on Sunday, and I talked to my friend Q, and he said to me, there's a file in a folder up there in medical. It has your name on it. I'm like, yeah, of course. He said, there's a piece of paper in that file, and it says something about you. I said, yeah, of course it does. He said, and nothing that you're going to do is going to change what's written on that piece of paper. You can obsess about it. You can freak out about it. You can, climb the walls. You can spend the next 48 hours in prayer. But whatever is in that folder is still going to be in that folder on Monday morning. And as it turned out, I went up there and they said, because of my age and because of certain other things, I needed to have a sonogram done of my liver. Had nothing to do with the test that I took. Nothing. But I'm telling you, the level that I obsessed about almost took me off the planet. I spent 2 days not sleeping. And I remember saying to the people, how could you do this to me, on a Friday night? So flash forward to about a week ago, 3 or 4 days ago. And there was a person on the lifeboat who's in sort of a similar position. They're waiting to find out some stuff from the doctor. And I hearkened back to the advice that I got from Q. And I said, hey, here's the deal. Whatever your medical condition is, stressing about it's not going to make it any better. In fact, since we know that stress literally can kill you, what you're doing right now is making this worse. You're making it worse. You're putting yourself into a position that is going to endanger you in so many different ways. So your best bet is just to sort of go with the flow. And this gentleman reached out and said, he finally called after going to the doctor, and I was sort of on pins and needles because of how much he built it up. I said, all right, so tell me, what did you learn? He said, worst case scenario. And obviously, people, my heart, sank to my shoes. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, I wonder how long he's got. And I said, what was the worst case scenario? He said, they're saying I might not be able to continue working the job that I have. And I really do everything within my power to be as kind as possible all the time. We don't judge people on the boat. We never do. But I kind of lost it. I said, that's the worst possible case scenario. And he said, yeah. I said, no, it's not. The worst possible case scenario is the doctor says to you, you know what? You got 3 weeks to live. That's the worst possible case scenario. We build things in our head and create these monsters out of things that, truthfully, I said to him, how do you know this isn't the greatest thing that ever happened to you? How do you know this isn't the opportunity for you to get the job that you were born for you to go into some other vocation that is going to make you happier than you've ever been, that is going to put less stress on your body, less stress on your mind? But that's not where we go. And this is as human beings, people. I'm not picking on addicts in particular. This is everybody. As human beings, we go to the worst possible case scenario every single time. It's what we do. And it never, and I mean never, benefits us in any way. Right? So it all comes back once again to the word perspective. Like the old cliche. I cried because I had no shoes until I saw a man who had no feet. So when you hear people in recovery talk about taking life one day at a time, and as I said, there's so many of you that have reached out and say, I don't like that as a concept. I got something to tell you. And I'm going to throw the air quotes up again, right? Normal people, air quotes. And what I mean by that is, people who are not in recovery, people who just are living life, having a good time, doing, what normal people do. They live life one day at a time as well. They do. You want a successful life. You know how you do it? You string a bunch of days together where you're living your best life. Last night on the lifeboat, we were able to celebrate Brandon. Brandon hit the 30-day mark. This has been a goal of his now for what? We're going back to October, right? And he's managed to go 30 days without a drink. And I got a beautiful message from him after last night's shows. He's really in a great place. I mean, mentally, physically, he's where he wants to be in life right now. And, you know, this is something absolutely worth celebrating. This is one of those things that, you know, that we can all sort of high five. But what it really boiled down to was on New Year's Eve, the last day that Brandon consumed alcohol, and he reached out to me and we had a conversation. I said to him, look, you just got to do what you did the first 25 days this month and what you did the first 21 days the time before. And there's nothing magic about any of this, people. There really isn't. We tend to build up sobriety, and there were so many books written, and there were so many groups out there, and there were so many things. The key to getting where Mark Wages has gotten to and being 11 years chemical free, or the key to getting 30 years or 25 years or whatever the goal is to get through today. Bottom line, the goal is to get through today. The reason that most psychiatrists and psychologists do this, especially in the beginning, is because the thought of the rest of your life for somebody in recovery is more than most people can deal with. This is a concept that is going to be far too stressful when you first start trying to get sober. So the two gentlemen that started this whole concept of addicts helping one another to stay sober, the goal was, look, we're just going to get through today. If we can get through today and not use, then we're going to try the same thing again tomorrow. Outside of our chemicals, outside of our addiction and everything else, this is the model for living your best life. Taking life one day at a time and doing the best that you can for that day in everything that you do. People, it shouldn't be any different at work than it should be on your walk in sobriety. I don't care what you do for work. Make today at work the best you're ever going to do at that job. This is what makes people successful. Truthfully, read the books on all of the most successful people in the world, and all of them, I mean, yeah, they plan for the future, people, but the way that they get their goals is to never let a day go by that they don't attack. You understand? Every single day that comes down is a gift. Last week, losing Cindy, you know, Cindy was a valuable member of this boat and just a great person with a beautiful heart and a beautiful soul. And she was young. You know, she was young. If life teaches you anything, it's that there's no guarantee. Tomorrow, most assuredly, is not guaranteed. What you've got is today. So the concept of taking life one day at a time is something that works in every aspect of your life. It's not just about chemicals. It's not just about recovery. It's about everything. You can do it in your spiritual life. You can do it in your marriage. Truthfully, people, when you first meet the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, the idea of not being near them is painful, right? Think of how much time you tried to work into every single day that you could spend with that woman or that man that you were in love with. When it was overwhelming, think of the work you put in. You know, you went to see that person, you grabbed flowers, you made sure that you looked good, you got dressed up, right? You felt like you had to make every moment count because you were trying to win this person over. You were trying to make this person realize you were the one. And then what happens? The same thing that happens in every other aspect of our life. All of a sudden, you know, you may not get dressed up, and you might go 3 or 4 days without shaving. And you did buy her flowers for Valentine's Day in 2016, right? This is what happens in every aspect of our life. I pick on the relationship thing because it's always the one that's most obvious. But When people, I get emails from people that say, I think I destroyed my marriage with drugs or alcohol, and I'm sober now. And because of the things that happened, I don't think I can ever, rebuild the relationship. And my response is always, if you spend the next 6 months pretending you just met her, right? Treat her the way you did in the first 6 months that you met her, and you will repair any damage that you did. I promise you. But things change. And what changes for most people is we get into a rhythm and a routine. Same thing at your job, right? When you first get hired, what happens? You think to yourself, I am going to be the best damn forklift driver this place has ever seen, ever. I mean it. I'm going to get here 15 minutes early. When everybody punches out from lunch, I'm going to be the last cat to punch out. I'm going to be the first dude back. And how long does that last? You understand why I'm making this illustration, people, correct? Because it's the exact same thing when you get sober. You get up and you say, this is it, man. I'm not drinking today. Just for today, I am not going to drink. I'm going to make sure I do everything right. I'm not going to lie to anybody, even if it's a small little lie. Because the old person used to lie, right? The previous incarnation of me, the drug addict, the alcoholic, that person was a liar. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm living a life that's going to be, and then the same thing happens. And we start to take our sobriety for granted, the same way we take our job, our wife, right? All of that for granted. And when you do, you're not going to be living for that one day. You're not going to be taken today. You're going to start thinking about things like, the future, and you start thinking outside of, I'm going to make today the best damn day that I ever have. And the second that starts, you're in relapse. I don't mean that you're picking up a drink. I don't mean that you're getting high. I mean the process of you losing the battle starts that day. And the people who manage to stay sober and the people that manage to hit their goals continue to revert back to that first day sober, the day that you wanted to live the rest of your life chemical free. The interview 2 days ago was amazing. And it was incredible from my standpoint, because to have somebody who could give you an example of exactly what relapse looks like and exactly how to handle it and do it live. When Alan Ballantyne said, I drove by a liquor store and thought, boy, you know what? I'd like to have a drink. People like that, within 5 minutes of that thought, he was on the phone with me. Tommy, I'm in relapse. That quick. Because he has come to value that more than anything in the world, right? The way that the drugs used to be in his life, when drugs were more important than absolutely everything. Well, now sobriety is more important than absolutely everything. And Alan Ballantyne has lived it. You want a perfect example of a guy that is living that life? What he did from Jump Street is to attack every single aspect of his life. That's why he's doing better at work. And it's not like he was doing bad. Alan's got a career that's doing well in, but he's doing better at work. He's getting along better with his family. He said to me, seeing my mom and dad proud of me is one of the best accomplishments of all of this. This coming from a guy who lost 120 pounds. But the best accomplishment is to see in the eyes of the people that love him and the people that he loves, pride instead of concern, right? Or instead of anger. This is really what it's all about, people. The concept of living one day at a time. Don't let the verbiage of that get you hung up. Don't make it into that, I got to live one. I can't handle living like normal people. So what I got to do is just do this one day at a time thing. I promise you, successful people live one day at a time. Even if they don't put that out in terms of, articulating it and saying, this is how I live, they will say to you, I attack every single day. I make sure that I don't waste any time. I make sure that every opportunity that comes up, I pounce on the second that it comes up. People, listen to what they're saying. What they're saying is, I live my life one day at a time. I don't let anything slide. If you don't live your life one day at a time, you don't take care of all of the things when you're supposed to. Do you know where they wind up? In your rearview mirror. Do you know what happens as a person in recovery? What happens when you stare into the rearview mirror? You think you're going to just see what happened yesterday? Because you're not. You're going to focus on what you did 5 years ago when you were drinking a fifth and a half of bourbon a day and neglecting your wife and your kids, and the guilt will start. And when guilt starts rolling in, people, you're on your way. you're on your way right back to that same life, because we have established and we have proven over long periods of time that the way most of us have dealt with the guilt in our life for the majority of the time that we have felt guilt is to just turn a switch that will make that go away. For me, that switch was heroin. For Mark, that switch was pills. For Alan, that switch was alcohol. And it doesn't matter what your switch is. There are people for whom that switch is 2 cheeseburgers, right? An extra large Coke and 5 things of fries, or a dozen Krispy Kreme. And I'm not being funny. I'm not doing this. It does not matter what your addiction is. You understand? We're all in this boat together. Addiction runs on 2 very distinctive levels. The first one is whatever substance or whatever bad habit you're putting into your body, whether it's cheeseburgers or cocaine or heroin or booze, it doesn't matter. The second aspect is what puts us all in the same boat. That is when the malfunctioning reward center of your brain starts to give chemicals out and say, through chemicals, your brain is saying, good job. That's what you should be doing. What you should be doing is eating 6 hamburgers, 3 fries and a Coke. You're doing the right thing. And it sounds funny, people. It really does. But it's exactly what's happening. You understand that the way we're built, our brains have a way of releasing chemicals to make sure that we do the correct thing. Think about it in terms of a million years ago, when a baby came out screaming, right, crying and freaking out. What makes us want to take care of that thing instead of leaving it and going, God, man, you hear that thing? Now just put it over there on that rock. Let's get out of here. No, what makes that happen is an unbelievable rush of chemicals that says that's the most important thing in the world. That right there, that screaming thing that's wetting itself, that's important. When your brain starts doing that to a 6-pack, you're in trouble. When your brain starts doing that to a bag of heroin and a needle, you're in trouble. And that's just what happens. The difference between, air quotes, normal people and those of us who wind up thoroughly addicted is they don't get that rush of chemicals when they buy a 6-pack. They just pick up some beer. They don't get that rush of chemicals when the liquid hits their lips. You think that if you ever doubt for 1 second the validity of this, explain how it takes 20 to 25 minutes for alcohol to enter your system. But the second that it touches your lips, you already feel better. Or the people addicted to hard drugs. I can tell you from personal experience that all I had to do was see the guy drive into the parking lot that I knew was delivering the drugs, and instantly I went from feeling sick to feeling well. Bizarre, but that's what happens. That's the malfunctioning reward center of the brain that is now just, off kilter. It jumps the track and it starts rewarding you for overeating. It starts rewarding you for gambling. It starts rewarding you for whatever it is that you're addicted to. It's pretty simple, honestly. But the good news is you can get it back on track. I promise you can. You can get it back on track. And once you do, and once that malfunctioning reward center starts rewarding you, and you're at work and you go, damn, you know what? I put in a good day's work today. It feels good. Honestly, I'm proud of what I just did today. I feel good about this. It's not a miracle. That's not some odd thing happening. That's your brain working the way it's supposed to, right? When Alan Ballantyne looks at Dad and sees pride in his eye, his brain floods him with those feel-good chemicals. He gets high, Mother Nature style. It's exactly what happens. When his daughter says to him, all is forgiven, Dad, you're a great father. That stuff was in the past. I love you. His brain goes, Gah! It just dumps a load of really cool chemicals into his brain. His reward center is now operating exactly how it should. You know how you ensure that it continues to do that? You get the hell out of the rearview mirror and you stop obsessing about things that are going to happen tomorrow. And you live for today. You live in the moment. And a beautiful side effect of that is there was a comedian that used to be on TV years ago. He had a show. It was called The Benny Hill Show. I can see my bobbleheaded partner laughing because he's old enough to remember the Benny Hill show. And I know Seventh Son is laughing right now because he's as old as all of us. But the Benny Hill show used to, it was like a sketch comedy thing. Very, very funny. It used to come on late at night. It was a show filmed in Britain. If you go to his grave, written on his gravestone, right, his epitaph reads, "Live every day as if it's your last, and one day you'll be right." And I'll tell you something, right? It's the way to live, people. It's the way to live. I'm not making light of death because it hurts worse than anything in the world. And I'm not making light of what happened last week because I literally loved her. But you know something? You don't know how much time you've got. You don't. You don't know if tomorrow's the day. You don't know if today's the day. So the only thing you can do is live every day as if it's your last. And then you know what? There will be a day that you're right. And if you do that, two things are going to happen. You're not going to have a lot of regrets at the end. And more importantly, you're going to keep the train on the track. And that reward center of your brain is going to do what it's supposed to. And you're going to do what? You're going to live your best life. Whether it's eating, whether it's alcohol, whether it's gambling, whether it's obsessing about stupid things, and you don't even do chemicals, none of it matters. Living your best life means enjoying everything that happens the way you should. And when the foul weather comes and the storms that make life miserable, they get really small. You have the ability to put things in perspective, right? Air quotes, normal people style. And you know the best part? The best part is when you get a train back on the track and that reward center starts working the way it's supposed to, and you're now literally in sobriety, living a sober life and being happy. The best part is you're not going to leave all of it behind. That may sound stupid, but how many times has somebody on this boat said, you know what? The kindest people I've ever met in my life are people that are in recovery. It's the truth. There is something about having been there, done that, and got out. Having been there, done that, and survived, that makes you not only want to help other people, but it makes you appreciate what you got here on this planet. And it's something that is real, it's palpable. And I've said it a million times. We didn't start this channel to say, you know what, we're as good as everybody else. We're not treated that way by society. People who have an addiction of any kind are treated like lepers, right? If you have an overeating disorder, they call you things like fat. If you have a gambling disorder, they call you degenerate. If you have a drug disorder, they call you weak. If you have an alcohol disorder, they call you a drunk, right? Not here. You think that we just happen to assemble the kindest people in the entire world on the lifeboat? There's probably a little something to that. But it's where we shopped for them. You understand? We found people who all have been there, done that. And when they get sober, they remember what it feels like to hurt. They remember what it feels like to want, and they remember what it feels like to be out of control. And when they see somebody else in the exact same situation, they might look at them, but it will never be this look here down the nose. All right? It's never happened. I've never once seen somebody on this channel treat somebody who comes on here with anything but respect. And people come on here and say, I'm drunk. I got drunk before I came here today. Nobody ever kicked anybody off or said, shame on you, because everybody remembers what it's like to be there. So when you get that reward center working the way it's supposed to, and you start to actually enjoy a life that is free of chemicals, one that you are in control of, the best part is you're not going to forget where you've been, and you're going to reach out and try to save people, which is really what we do here on the lifeboat, right? People, there's nothing like working Mark wages like he's a rented mule. You know what I'm saying? My bobbleheaded partner, people, for those of you who do not have any perspective on this, let me bring you up to speed. Mark Wages has the ability to, if something happens that needs to be discussed in space weather, Mark's going to do it, even if it happens to almost coincide with the lifeboat. So tonight, while making sure that we're 5x5 over here on the lifeboat and making sure that we're sailing on a somewhat even keel, he's also delivering a full message on on Wages World, which is just nothing shy of amazing if you think about it. And You know what, Mark? While you were gone, I just sat and talked bad about you the whole time.
I'm
And
sure
then
you
once I
did.
realized you were back, I changed the subject matter. No, but you heard what the I know that you have a an opinion or two on one day at a time, because it's definitely I mean, living life one day at a time.
Yeah, it's key, honestly. And I would even take it a step further. If you've already said this, I didn't catch the like really beginning of this because I was on my other channel. But um, sometimes you got to take it down to the second. And that's, I'm not sure if you said that yet or not, but you really do, guys. It sometimes if this is smacking you in your face, life is beating you up. You just sometimes, believe it or not, guys, if you take it a second at a time, eventually it becomes you can take it 2 seconds. And what I've noticed, especially in my recovery, is it exponentially will multiply. So now it's 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and those things, those minutes and seconds start to grow. And yeah, Arizona, you're killing me. Sorry, I shouldn't have read that.
I saw that too.
Yeah, and guys, thank you for anybody that came over from Wages World. You guys are awesome. You guys always are awesome. You guys never let me down, and it's so great. And I've already seen you guys talking in the chat. You guys are already integrated. It's amazing how that happens.
Well, that's because everybody here is family. I mean, they're going to recognize half of the crew over here anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right. And it's and let me say this too. It's really it's comfortable. That's what I'll say, because it really is. When we're here doing our live streams for people that don't know, this is really what we do. We sit around and we do this kind of thing. And we have a topic, but if something happens in somebody's life and they pop it in the live chat, guess what we're going to do? There goes the brakes, and we're going to try to help. And that's how it all happens. And you're welcome, Lisa. Appreciate you for coming over here. And Kenneth, you too, man. Angelo's in the Bronx, Tommy.
Oh, nice.
He's holding it down in the Bronx for us. That's it. It's awesome. But yeah. So again, guys, I mean, yeah. Oh, you're welcome, the guy. I like that avatar. But taking it one day at a time, 1 second at a time, if you need to, and use somebody else's second if you have to. What do I mean by that? Well, sometimes you need to distract yourself. And, if you just get that small little distraction, that's all it takes sometimes. If you like Tommy mentioned, I heard you say it already a couple times during the live stream, you have to, you have to be consciously thinking and you're doing stuff, but the distraction is key. You have to be able to recognize you're in that issue. That's the biggest part. If you know you're in an issue, what can you do about it? Well, you can at least attempt to fix it or to stop something from coming and all those kinds of things. And sometimes it takes your friend to point it out.
Reach out.
Yep. And that's where I was going with that because, that's what I've gotten from this already. It's just, I know we've only been going, what, Tommy, 5 months, maybe?
6.
6 months now? Okay.
Yep. As of today, people, oddly enough.
Yeah. And it's, I'm telling you, it's something that I never expected to ever see in my life. And, Tommy talked about it a little while ago about, he was talking about doing this channel, and I was thinking about it myself. You guys even heard me talk about it on my channel like a couple years ago. I actually had somebody in my outpatient program, my group, approach me 2 weeks before I met Tommy, wanting to do this with me. And so what I'm saying is, with all of that happening, this is needed. People wouldn't be thinking about this in this way if this was not needed. This is a gap in the system that we're attempting to fill. And that's really what it is. And, there are places out there, that do this, right? I mean, but they don't do it quite the same. There's going to be little, niches or whatever. Nobody's ever going to do it exactly the same. But, our goal is to be able to we built this in a way, and we're still growing so much. Every night I learn something new. And I'm not saying that sometimes it comes from Tommy, but a lot of times it comes from the chat.
Amen.
And it's such a blessing to be able to have that. I don't even know how to say it anymore. I said it so much. But the fact of the matter is, and I don't want to water that down either. I've tried to kind of back off.
No.
You know what I mean? Because it does lose a little bit of that power if you just keep saying it. And that's kind of what I don't want to do, because I want it to mean that when I say it. I want people to say, hey, he just said that. That kind of a thing. And notice what we're doing here. And then notice it's help. It just, what you got there, the guy?
Yeah, the couple of comments. First of all, the guy said I was forced to admit to a week ago. We had hit the intervention point before it becomes the next step of legal self-destruction. Destruction sucks, no question. For those of you new to the channel, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm a drug addict, and I went down that road. I spent some time in federal prison for bank robbery. So I did not get that intervention in time. But it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. It gave me about 7 years to study nothing but sobriety and get pretty serious about it, and sort of the roots for, what I wanted to do, or at least the direction I thought I wanted to go, to set up something like this. And then I met Mark, probably about 8 shows in or something. I met Mark, and once the two of us met, the show really kind of took shape. But I definitely was going down that exact road. Lisa D said that she has a feeling that she'll be back to check this out. I love that. Please do. And we're blessed to everybody that came over from Wages World. That's great, Mark. Appreciate it. Really do. But Kenneth Adams,
reach out.
Kenneth, my heart goes out to you, my friend. That's the saddest story in the world. And unfortunately, it's going to happen 300 times today, and it's going to happen 300 times tomorrow, and it's going to happen 300 times the next day. We're losing 300 people a day in this country to drug overdoses. At 2.3 people in the average house in America, that's 120 empty houses a day. And the truth of the matter is, just like in 1930, when the medical community and the whole world said, if people are under the influence of alcohol, keep them away from drugs. Keep them away from guns, and keep them away from automobiles and things like that, and just let them drink themselves to death, because there's no way to treat this. It's an incurable sickness. And 2 addicts got together and said, I know I can't not drink tomorrow, but I will make sure you don't drink tomorrow, and you make sure I don't drink tomorrow. And as crazy as it sounds, there's about 100 million people that have used what those 2 individuals started out and built on it. And it's the reason that I'm here. It's the reason Mark's here.
I think it goes to show how powerful and how much more we respect our peers than we do somebody that's in authority. And that's why we don't like to put ourselves in that position. We don't want anybody to think we're out here just preaching and just throwing stuff at you. Because the peer is where it's at. That's who we're going to learn from. That's who we're going to be. And Eva, thank you for saying that over there. I see that comment. This channel will be a blessing for so many. Thank you. And Angelo, hey, buddy, I'm going to bump right with you.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was going to say you found good company.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the right place.
Yeah. And guys, we lean on each other. And I know you guys have heard me talk this kind of stuff on Wages World, the guys that came over from there. But I'm able to do it in a more, I can reach out and really concentrate on that here. When I'm doing the space weather, that's what the space weather channel's for. The byproduct of that is I allowed everybody to become a family. I provided that, that I guess I facilitated something there for people that they felt safe. And they were able to grow towards each other. And it's because we don't judge. We didn't judge over there. And that's a rule here. We don't judge nobody here. You want to roll up in here, however your situation is, you come on in. We're gonna find you a seat. And we're gonna do what we need to do. and that's where it's at. I really do think that that's why this works, is because it's a peer thing. It's a whole group mentality. You can go through all the medical outpatient stuff that you want. That does most certainly help. I'm on it, right? I'm on Suboxone, but I'm telling you right now, to beat the mental part of it, it takes this. The Suboxone will get you a clarity point to where you can actually see what this is.
And work on yourself.
And then you work on yourself from that point. And I hope people can see that kind of thing.
Well, Kathleen does.
Yeah.
Because she said, yes, the buddy system is so helpful. And I'll tell you what, it's the backbone of everything we do here. It's why we do every one of these live. That's, I think, probably the biggest gift that Mark brought to the lifeboat, although he brings a lot of it. But, when I was started this show prior to Mark, I made videos. And from the day that Mark came on board, he started saying, when we get a couple more people in here, you're really we got to do this live, because what you need to do is a lot of people to interact with one another, because we really wanted, it to be almost group therapy kind of a thing. But without having to stand up and do hi, I'm Tommy and I'm a heroin addict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That for a lot of people, that's just very uncomfortable. And this gives you, although we lost somebody last week, and it was as painful as anything I can remember, losing a crew member of this boat. And you can get really close to people that you don't see face to face, but not seeing them face to face will give you a little bit more ability to be open and honest without feeling like everybody's staring at you. You know what I mean? At least on that end of it.
It definitely is, man. I think some people, you know what I call that? And I've said it on my channel before. I'm flipping the script on what's bad about the internet.
Yeah.
It's what we're doing. We're allowing people to have their opinion, their voice, and we're not going against that. Whatever they say is what they say. And that's what they're feeling, and I'm glad they're here. And that's why we do what we do. But yeah.
And you know what? I just saw in the comment section, they were talking about Mark Pliers, who's going to be going live in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
People, one of the things that we do here is we do cut this off at 1 hour. And the reason behind that is, if someone's really in it and they really need help, we'll shut it down and immediately start back up. But we want to push this channel out as far as we possibly can, because it's about saving people. And the farther YouTube pushes us, the more people we save. And if we run this thing more than 1 hour, YouTube does not save us. So as you can see, we are at the witching hour. So people, I want to thank everybody that came over from Wages World. Seems like Stroming almost like the last time that the crew from Wages World came over, and now they're the family here on the lifeboat. That's the core of it. But I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Hopefully we're going to see you all. We're up every single night without fail at 6 o'clock Pacific time. I will be back here tomorrow with my bobbleheaded partner, Mark. And between now and then, people, as we always say, you have but one assignment: reach out and try to save somebody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
God bless you all. Everybody head over to Mark Pliers right now. Let's go say hi over there. Welcome to the Lifeboat Live. We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine